live in Jalaliya Jami Masjid, Honda Zen, Enfield, for a Q&A session with a lot of youngsters, mashallah. Yeah, hold this down. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Inshallah, as the Quran is the most Mubarak thing we have, we're going to begin with it. I'm going to request my colleague, Muhammad Saeed, to recite some Quran for us, and then inshallah begin with our main program.
واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار ربنا أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد صدق الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum. Dear brothers, respected elders, and sisters, as most of you are aware, alhamdulillah, we have present Sheikh Hasan Ali, who's going to do the talk today, inshallah. Alongside him, our head imam, Maulana Muhammad. Also, Maulana Khalid, please, if you'd like to come forward. Also, a couple of things, brothers, can I just remind you guys, please put your phone in silent, obviously that will disturb the talk. And also, when we do the Q&A, I will come down with the microphone, ask you the question. But first priority we will give to the sisters upstairs. Sisters at the back of the masjid on the top floor, you can see I left some clipboards and some papers and some pens. If you have any questions, write it down. I will come and collect them in about 5 to 10 minutes, inshallah, and then the imams will answer the questions. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakallah khairan, Mujibay and Muhammad Saeed for your Quran recitation. In case you don't know, this is our new local inshallah scholar. Maulana Saeed has spent many years. He left our community, went to Leicester and studied the Deen, and he's come back. So we have another person from whom our children and we ourselves can learn from. So bear that in mind, inshallah. Before I hand over to our esteemed guest today, I just wanted to remind us all of some of the etiquette, some of the adab of attending such a gathering. So first of all, Jazakumullah khairan, well done for attending. We live in a virtual world now, even every day we're coming closer and closer to living in a completely virtual world. But something as Muslims we need to remember is that there are certain things which Allah has kept in the real world which probably don't exist in the virtual world. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ told us that whenever a group of people gather in a masjid, مَجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِّن بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ إِلَى آخِرِ الْحَدِيثِ, that whenever a group of Muslims gather in a masjid to learn about or to discuss the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, then the angels descend upon them, Allah's mercy surrounds them, descends upon them, the angels surround them, okay? And there are many virtues. Even the Prophet ﷺ said if somebody was like walking past and coincidentally just joined them, he wasn't even here for that purpose, but he joined that gathering, then Allah's bounties and His favors and the blessings of this majlis even reach that person. That probably, the scholars say, doesn't apply to the person watching on YouTube afterwards, or the person watching remotely via some live link, okay? Of course, if you can't make it, then that's better than nothing, but the majlis and the gathering of ilm is much more sacred and blessed than just the information that we might get from watching YouTube and so on and so forth. So it's very great that we've come to this majlis. What I would recommend is what we take away with us is not just, oh, I learned this, I heard this, but I spent 1 hour, 2 hours, however long we end up spending here, in the house of Allah, in the majlis of remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we should try to continue to do this, inshallah. So a few etiquettes. So we are here to learn, inshallah. We have a guest with us. So we have to, respect, honor, and show our eagerness. So our phones and such, and are there anything else that might distract us? Please keep them, away. Even in our sitting, it is said about the Sahaba when they would sit, they were very, very close together. Okay, eager to come forward. So we should try and come forward, and listen eagerly, listen attentively, and inshallah we'll have some questions at the end. Before those questions, I will inshallah give some guidelines on that also.
Just make the announcement, please, about the child.
If there is a young boy, Muhammad, your mother is calling you upstairs, okay? Small child, if you hear without your mother is upstairs and you go downstairs, Muhammad, then your mother wants you to go upstairs, okay?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Blessed to all my brothers and sisters who have attended. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So my dear brothers and sisters, we're living in a very different world to what we lived in 30 years ago. So if I just go 30 years ago, if I go all the way to 1991, there was no internet. Internet came in about 1995. So just 26 years ago, the world was completely different. When I say completely different, our way of learning, our way of communicating was totally different. If you wanted to meet someone, then you had to, we're talking about a world when the phones, we're talking about the old Nokia phones, only came in about 1991. So just 30 years ago, just imagine, just before the Nokia phones came in, if you wanted to contact someone, you had to go to a physical phone box, or you had to have a telephone line at home, and then you had to contact someone through that. And most people those days, if they wanted to see someone, they'll probably go up to their door, knock on their door and see if they're home, they're home. If they're not home, then you come back, right? Then the Nokia phones came out, and we've seen such transformation that it's unbelievable how much transformation we've had in these 30 years. So So these phones came out, and the first thing was to text people, right? And the next thing was, okay, phoning people, texting people was the main thing. If you even remember, the games that were on these Nokia phones were like the worm game that kept on getting longer and longer until you chase that worm around the screen until it touches itself, and then game over. So there were very, very simplistic things that were out. 1995, the internet comes out, and it's an explosion, okay, explosion of how people communicate. Emails were, going to and fro in the 1990s, and that changed how people view the world. And then from there, because the internet really is a number of computers that are connected to one another across the world. And without much time, further time going by, you had so many computers across the world connecting one another. Now, here comes the smartphones that entered the market in the early 2000s. When the smartphones came, nobody really saw how much the world was going to change again. So now you've got from screens that are getting bigger, and people not using just the phone as a phone or text messages, but people started to use these phones as computers. So what we actually have in our pockets right now, these smartphones, they are supercomputers. They are supercomputers. In fact, if you compare them to the early 1990s phones, there's no comparison whatsoever. So now people are using these as mini computers. Your entire day's work can be done with this, and then comes the social media. So one by one, the social media came in the 2000s. You had your YouTube, you had your WhatsApp, you had slowly, Facebook came along, and then you had Instagram, you had later on you had your Snapchat, you had your TikTok. The latest ones have been the TikTok and so on, and each one brings in a new phenomenon. Okay, each one brings a new challenge. So what we've seen over the years is, and I'm going to try and break it down in my 20 minutes that I've got. So I'm going to talk to you with different things in about 20 minutes. And then we actually have gathered everyone together, especially the youth today, to ask us questions. Because through your questions, we can get down to your answers that you need to know. So what's happened now is, let's fast forward all the way to 2021. Fast forward into 2021, people are locked in hours and hours on these smartphones, hours and hours on the channels. In fact, if you go 30 years back, the television was the main thing that people were locked onto. Today, televisions are like, well, who wants a television, right? Who actually wants a television? Who wants a big TV? Okay, you have one big TV in the house, maybe because of your FIFA. If you don't want to strain your eyes with those, matches of Man U and Liverpool, right? You want to see on a bigger screen. You want to see your boxing matches, your MMA, whatever, on big screen. You want to see the blow being taken, right? And how that guy's jaw moves while he takes the blow, right? So for these reasons, people might have a TV or a few programs, but right now Netflix and other, Disney Plus and whatever you've got at home is available on all these smartphones and all these different pads that you've got. So what this has done is it's made people look at their smartphones or their tablets. It makes them look at that for hours and hours on end without realizing how much time they're spending. A lot of time is being taken to this. Second is the world around us. I'm talking about the immediate world around us. So my mom, my dad, right? My brother, my sister. So I'm going to ask the people at the back, someone who's got a bottle in their plastic bottle in their hand and squeezing it. If you could just leave the plastic bottle where it is, thank you very much. Yeah? So my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my immediate family, who love me more than anybody else, right? I'm disconnected with them. And I'm more connected with my phone. Now, how is that right? So I'm actually giving priority right now as a young person or as a middle-aged person. I'm giving more time to people outside of the house who care for me less. There's no doubt about this. If anyone here says your friends care for you more than anything else, then I'm going to ask you, okay, so if you get a court case tomorrow, where you've got £100,000 on your head, okay, £100,000 on your head, and you're losing sleep, you're losing, you can't eat, who's going to come to your rescue tomorrow? Who's going to be at your side no matter what? Is it going to be your friends? Guys, tell me, is it going to be your friends? No, it's not going to be your friends. Okay, you can go to your friend's house, you can sleep in your friend's house for 2 weeks if you want. When you've got an argument with your father, your mother, your brother, your sisters, people do this, right? Youngsters get up, they take their bags and they go to a friend's house, they stay there for 2 weeks. Now, how long are you going to stay in your friend's house for? Right? Because he's got a family, right? The moment the reality hits you when you get to the real world. Now, your social world is your social world. What our social world is supposed to be is a a small part of us, not a large part of us. Now what people are doing is they make this the large part of their lives. And I tell you another thing that's happened in the background with the artificial intelligence. See, these companies, whether you know it or whether you don't know, let me spell it out for you. Why are they, how have they got us glued onto these screens? And why is it important for them, for us to keep on looking at that screen? You know why? Because companies out there are making huge amounts of money. When I say huge amounts, I'm talking about billions of dollars, trillions of dollars are being made every single day because people are glued onto the screens. Now you're going to say to me, well, I don't pay a penny. It's true, you don't pay a penny, but you are the reason how they make money. And you're going to say, well, how does that work? Well, let me tell you how it works. You've got a screen, and you're on Instagram, or you're on Facebook, or you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, okay? These are the main ones that will give you video after video that you look at, and you can keep on scrolling, and they'll give you new videos, okay? And it's quite addictive to do this, okay? There was a point when they first started this, I looked at it a few times, and you know what? You don't realize 2-3 hours have gone, and you don't realize how on earth I've spent that much time in just going from video to video to video. All you do is, you don't like the video, you scroll up, right? You like the video, you stay on there for a few seconds. But what you don't realize is there's a supercomputer behind you, behind all this mechanism that is calculating what video you stay on for how long till you scroll it away. And based on that, what they're doing is they now know this artificial intelligence computer, supercomputer. We're talking about maybe 1 million people together won't be able to be as smart as this computer, right? In seconds, split seconds. It works out straight away what's the next video you're going to like. How do you work that out? Because there are people like you, of your age group, that are watching certain videos across the world that stayed that many seconds on a certain video, and it knows, okay, this person, because we know when you first subscribe to these things, they ask you what's your age group, right? They always do this. What's your gender and what's your age group? So straight away, if you're a woman, all right, it knows straight away not to give you football. Hello? If you're a boy, about 20 years old or something, it knows to give you football. If you're a girl, it knows to give you lipstick, makeup, handbags, shopping, diamonds, necklace, gold, and all of that. That comes straight away. If you're a boy, it knows to give you, people scruffy outside, people fighting, people got car crashes, people got, because boys are interested in all of this stuff, right? Somebody's got a really super car, somebody's zooming down the lane with a horsepower of 600 or something. That's the things that you're going to be interested in. Straight away it knows, right? So now, your age group. So if you're 35, it's going to give you things that are relevant to 35. If you're 45, it'll give you things that are 45-year-olds are relevant to, right? Because they're now into more houses, right? If you talk to a 45-year-old, he wants to know about houses. He wants to know about the cost of houses and what kind of big house he can get. If you're a 35-year-old, you're probably more into, I don't know, something that is more relevant to your age, whatever it is. 25 is different, 15 is different, each age group is different. Now, based upon that, they're working within milliseconds. What's the next video you're gonna like? So as soon as you scroll up one, or you scroll something away, it knows that you didn't like that video. So it's not gonna give you those suggestions again. But it then knows, okay, straight away, this guy liked to see a lorry that had a crash. All right, a lorry that had a crash. And maybe you got those, those guys that you guys must have seen those guys who appear on TikTok. They became a big meme about, the guys, whenever there's a death or a crash, those guys, the funeral dancers. Funeral dancers, right? They appear, right? So you like one of those videos with the funeral dancers, and what he does straight away, he knows that the next one with the funeral dancer, the clash with something else, let's show him that. So you see that and you think, wow, I like that, So you're into suspense, you're into seeing something dramatic, you're into seeing something, short video, and then what? How many seconds patience have you got? So now, if your patience is only 30 seconds for a video, they're only going to give you 30 seconds and less. If your patience is up to a minute, they're going to give you those that are between 30 seconds and a minute. They'll work that out without you even having to do anything, without Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else behind any of these big platforms, without them doing anything. Right? It's the artificial intelligence that's working this out. Now, you see one video after one video after one video. Now they're making more juicier and juicier for you to see these videos. As all of this is happening, the question is, look, this is the big question, right? So you're sitting there, you're having a lovely time. Where is your mother? Right? Who cared for you for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years? Where's your father? Where's your sister? Your sister's next door. Your father's in the same house. Your mother's in the same house. Now, where is your contact with them? Now you're going to say to me, well, what's wrong if I have more contact with my phone? Well, if you have more contact with your phone and less contact with your mother and father, then what it means is that less family time, and it means that you're not giving your part of your love. You're not showing any of that. Well, you're going to say to me, well, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is, my friend, you're now no longer a family member. You're a friend in a social media world that is captured by these organizations that are trying to make money out of you. And again, the question comes, how do they make money out of you? Because what happens is, you scroll and scroll and scroll. Each time you go into TikTok, they have an advert for you. Each time new time you go into TikTok, each Instagram video is carefully selected with with many adverts there which you don't know. So these adverts are there. You see someone with nice clothing. You think, yeah, I want that clothing. You click on it straight away. The advertising company has made some money. You just touch it and they made money. How they're going to make 1p. Maybe it's 2 pennies, okay, something really small, but the number of millions and millions of people that click on that, those 2p's, those 3p's become, hundreds of pennies, they become pounds, they become thousands of pounds, right? So they're making it by advertising, clicking on that. Now, another thing that's happened is that people actually have started to live a life they actually don't abide by, or that's not their life. They're living fake lives because of this social media. How's that? Well, when you're in social media, you've now entered a race. I don't care who's on social media, you've entered a race. Now, alhamdulillah, I'm going to say a couple of things right now. One thing I realized early on is never to watch any of the videos that they recommend, right? I don't watch any recommended videos on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I don't watch any recommended videos on Facebook. I don't watch any recommended videos on YouTube. I don't watch any recommended videos on TikTok. I've learned early that, once you click one, it's like the next one is so juicy. Oh my, I need to see that, right? And they give nice titles. They give really wonderful titles, like, some guy who basically survived with a screwdriver in his stomach, right? Right? He survived. They did an operation and they got his screwdriver out of his stomach. Now, first thing goes through your mind is that, how on earth did he get a screwdriver in his stomach? Right? You want to know that one. And how on earth did they get the screwdriver out? So you're sitting there watching a 12-minute operation, right? So these guys, doctors saying, wallahi, and you're laughing, you're thinking, this guy's so dumb. How did he get a screwdriver inside? And you're trying to imagine what happened inside. Right? The real fact is, why on earth do you need to watch a video about a guy who got a screwdriver in his stomach? Like, have you got better things to do? You get me? Like, honestly, have you got better things to do? Like, where's your akhirah? Where's Allah now? I first said to you, where's your family? Where's Allah? Where's your connection to the Sunnah? Where's the grave? Where's the real world? Because the grave is a real world for me. Akhirah is a real world for me. Right? I'm going to collect my hasanat. I'm going to collect my good deeds for the akhirah. Now, where am I with all of this? Where's my Quran reading? Where's my dhikr? Where's my salah? Where's my remembrance of Allah? Now, can you see how far we've gone into, just because we've got a smartphone, we've got a tablet, and that's sucking my energy, sucking my time, sucking my attention, so much so that I've forgotten what my reality is. Nasullaha fa'ansahum. Allah said in the Holy Quran. They forgot Allah, so Allah made them forget themselves. They forgot Allah, Allah made them forget themselves. Now that's one thing I want to share with you, which is I try my absolute best not to go into any video whatsoever to click in and see it and get sucked in. Right? The other thing is I don't have any followers. As in, I don't follow anyone. I'm sorry, followers are there for me, but I don't follow anyone. Right? Why don't I follow anyone? Because I actually don't go into anyone else's account and see what they do. That's why. Why? Because my social media was created for da'wah. Right? My main thing about, I have some jokes on there now and again, just to keep the youngsters happy now and again. But my main thing is to spread da'wah. So I'm not interested in what so-and-so is eating for dinner. People are crazy, man. It's like, she's cooked this food, she's going to advertise it on Facebook, she's going to show all her friends what she cooked, and I'm thinking, ya Allah, what about the evil eye that people are going to give because when you're eating right now, no wonder tomorrow you've got diarrhea. No wonder you've got some big problem. That's why even if I take a picture of food, right, I always try and send it I always try and send it, let's say for example, 2 days later. 2 days later I'll send it. I won't send it immediately, right? Because I want to make sure my food is going to sewage before you eat black catching it, right? Now, people with their clothing, with their cars, with their, you know, with their families, with their lifestyle, they're showing it. And you know what happens? People then lead fake lives. This is what I'm trying to say. So you've entered a lane now, somebody's got like the latest brand, okay? He's wearing the brand shirt, the brand coat, he's got the latest car, the latest phone, she's got the latest jewelry, latest handbag, right? Then what people do is the people think that how can I compete with my friend? So what are they doing? Now the trend has become people are borrowing monies from others just to get that latest handbag, right? Now they're in debt right now. They're in debt right now. They borrowed money to buy another handbag, which they didn't need, just so that they can show the handbag on social media, so that they can still remain within that class of people. I'm like, listen, my friend, you've lost yourself right now. Why? Why are you faking a life? Why are you living a life that you don't actually have the money to live? You don't have that money. Now, actually, one thing about me. If you want to become my friend, you become my friend on my status, who I am. I don't care who you are. You could be Mr. Bashar Khan. You could be Mr. King. You could be Mr. Don. You could be Mr. Mercedes, Mr. Limousine, Mr. Lexus, Mr. whatever. Okay? You could be Mr. Five-star hotel owner, 5-story building in Bangladesh. MashaAllah, may Allah bless you with all your land and everything else. You could be Mr. 5 houses owner. You could have 5 rooms of an owner. I don't care. How I live, I live. And I'm not going to up my own game because of you becoming my friend. If you don't like me, then leave me. Now that's how life should be. Right? Why am I bringing trouble to myself and making myself go into debt? One thing, all right? Now you've got youngsters going to stress. Youngsters are stressed out. Why? Because they haven't got enough likes. I'm like, are you serious? So what do these likes mean? These likes mean jack. Absolute jack. If we switched off the internet tomorrow, imagine tomorrow there was an electricity crisis and we lost all electricity and all social media was gone. What would our world be? What's our real world? Our real world is this right now. Look, me and you sitting here right now, this is our real world. Right? What I eat for dinner tonight is my real world. What my mom cooks for me at home is my real world. Not me going to a restaurant, okay, spending £55 with a sizzling grill, okay, and I show all of that, right? Yeah, guys, look what I'm having, man. Look what I'm having, man. Then I go to a dessert place, okay, this is a new trend, right? Go to a dessert place with, some waffles, something designed, and they put all the chocolate around there with massive design, right? And then I show that, yeah. That dessert cost me £20 per head. That food cost me maybe £30 per head. That's £50 I've spent just on one night, while my mother is giving me food much more better than this, more better quality than this, more healthier than this, with more love made. Now that food she made with more love, and basically it's costing her probably £5 to give me that meal. So what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? And then these youngsters getting stressed because they don't have enough likes. There's actually real studies where there's a high percentage of youngsters committing suicide or becoming suicidal because they're feeling left out of those crowds that entered, and they no longer have those, ways of motivating themselves or their friends, and they've lost that social life, they've lost that circle because all their friends are saying, what are you? You're nothing. What have you got? You haven't got enough likes, you've only got 2 likes, all right? And they take the mick out of them, right? They tease them. You've only got 2 likes. You might as well close your social media, right? You've only got 2 likes. Who are you 2 likes? You, yourself, and the third one is going to be you again, right? So there's all of these bullying going on because of the fact they don't have likes. Now, guys, come out of all of this, and I'm going to wrap up right now. Come out of all of this. What's life? Life is supposed to be me, my mental health, my physical self, my life, my monetary level, my ability to pay for my own things. It's supposed to be set at where I'm comfortable, right? This social media has deprioritized my life. If it's made my akhirah different, if it's made me not know who my real people are, my loved ones are, It has made me forget myself. It has made me forget where I truly am. It's made me go and live a life which I can't really live up to. Then please, my thing is to you, is that you better start thinking where you are. Now this is not the end of it. We've just had this week, I think it was, or the week before this, we've had Facebook, right? Now tell us that there's a new thing coming, a metaverse they're talking about, right? So this is mostly Mr. Zuckerberg, who's already, in the press for very bad reasons, right? So Mr. Zuckerberg is sucked up to these governments. He's given them a lot of our data. Now, if you don't know about this, there's a lot of data theft that has happened behind our backs. Now, you might say to me, well, what's wrong with my data being taken away from me? I'm not doing anything wrong. It's not about you whether you do something wrong or not. We could enter a world 20 years' time where, because you're a certain person and a certain category of a people, you could be a criminal without you knowing it. Like we've had for the last 20 years, terrorism became synonymous with Islamism, or it became a synonym with Muslims, right, with beards, or with the turbans, or that became it's the way the media played the game, right? Now we know terrorism is something different. We all know this, and I'm saying this for the camera as well. There are all sorts of terrorists across the world. And we know, yes, there are a very small amount, we're talking about less than 1%, not even probably 0.5% of Muslims across the world have got that kind of mind. 99.something% of Muslims are not terrorists. We all know this, right? You're sitting here in front of me, we're not terrorists. But the way the media played the game, the way the newspapers sold their papers because of this terrorism, headlines over the last 20 years since 9/11, right? Then people like me with a beard, people like you, with a beard or a hijab, people like you with a turban, with a hat, with a jubba and so on, you get targeted in the streets for no reason, right? That's the reality of the world. That's the reality of the world. So we want to say right now, look, I want to ask you something, yeah? You know they've been banging about terrorism and terrorists for every single week we're in the papers. If not the pandemic. Did all the terrorists die because they got the COVID-19 virus? No, they didn't, right? They were still alive. Did all the terrorism finish? No, it didn't. There were still the same people out there. Did all of them suddenly become like, Sufis, and they started to get beads and they started to tell people going to die because of COVID-19? No, they didn't. Their action was the same, their aqidah was the same, their beliefs were the same. So what happened to terrorism for the last 2 years? We haven't heard of terrorism in the papers for the last 2 years. Why? Because the papers had something different to talk about. They now want you to focus on the pandemic, on COVID-19. How many people are dying? How many countries are, have got this effect, that effect, this effect, people going Zoom calls, this, that, blah, blah, blah. There was a new world. So the thing is, look, if you really think about it, terrorism and terrorists still exist. But they just stopped talking about it. Now, alhamdulillah, for the last 2 years, we've had a bit more of a breather. People like me walking with a beard like this out there in the street, we've got a bit more of a breather, yes or no, guys? Right? And what, did we change? Did the world change? No. Did those terrorists change? No. So what I'm trying to say to you is this, look, with the new world that's coming ahead, we're going to see a lot more change. We're sitting here in 2021 right now. By 2031, if Mark Zuckerberg has got his metaverse coming out in its way, right? So people now are going to get these, these glasses, right? I don't know, the meta sort of glasses or whatever they're going to call it, augmented reality, right? Which is, you put these on, these goggles on, right? So you've got this, it's like you've got this, what do they call them on? Virtual reality what? Glasses on. Okay, so you put them on, right? So now, before I said to you, look, I'm on my phone, right? My mom's there, my dad's there, my brother's there, my sister's there. I'm just swiping here, right? I'm still in the same room. I still can see them, I can hear them, right? Now what's going to happen is, once this is introduced to the world, our kids, and I really hope you guys hold off of these things as long as you can, right? Because what's going to happen is, people put these on, once they put them on, their hearing, their sight is blocked now. It's blocked to this virtual world. In that world, they're going to make themselves they're going to have an avatar, so they make themselves, like another Hasan Ali, right? Or another Hasan Ali. I make my home. I don't have to have my own home. I make my virtual home. I invite my friends to this virtual home. They come to my virtual home. I go to their virtual home. We're all seeing each other. So there's 5 people right now. One sitting here, one sitting in the US, one sitting maybe in Scotland, one sitting in north of England, right? One sitting somewhere else, right? So we all 5 of us join this one room. So once you join this one room, we're now interacting with one another. My mom, my dad, my life, my work, everything around me can be what it is, but I'm zoned out, right? Now I live in this world. Imagine how addictive that world is going to be, because if you know about Minecraft, or he said glasses that's 5 millimeters thick, right? Where you wear them, and in your house you walk around, and while you're in your house you see messages pop up in your glasses. So you can see your dining table, you've got messages popping up, right? You can see your family, and you've got these things popping up. Now what's that going to do to you? Look, you can't have 2 minds in one place all the time. You can probably juggle things around, but I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to be easy to navigate around your own house. Already the same, right? You know when you got your sat-nav on, that's it, you just have your sat-nav on in your car. But imagine you had a YouTube video or something else, messages popping up on in your car while you're driving. They call that illegal, right? How are people supposed to have glasses and walk around in their house and not trip over anything, not basically bump into certain things, right? When they're focusing on their messages, I don't know. But anyway, it goes further than this. When what he's doing is he's making your workplace with virtual reality. So now you can have your own workplace, you can grab things, you can move your computer screens, all through this glasses, and you can basically work where you are now. Of course, people are already working overtime. They're not giving enough time to themselves and to their family members. What's going to happen tomorrow? I tell you another thing that's coming, which is something which I think it was Harari wrote this, okay? Harari is a writer. He wrote 3 books. One of them is Homo Deus, right? Now he wrote this, and I'm going to say this last thing, and we're going to open to Q&A, inshallah. All right? So what he wrote is this, and this is a thing. A guy who really is, honestly, his material is on a think tank level, right? What did he say? He said what's going to happen next is people are going to get chips, all right, in their skins, all right? It's already been tested out. There are further tests being done out. Right now, as we're talking, Facebook and Metaverse are making a lot of research in this area. So what you do is this. You put a chip in your neck, or you put a chip in your wrist, or chip in your arm, or somewhere. So you basically put a chip inside there. That chip, which is near your brain, connects with your brain. So what you then do is, you don't need the glasses after that. You don't need the augmented reality after that. That chip is connected to your brain cells, right? And your thinking, right, is connected to the chip. So right now you've got a smartphone, and you have to carry the smartphone everywhere. What's the point of the smartphone after you've got the chip? You don't need a smartphone. Because all your photos and videos that you normally, take, photos you take, videos you take, all of that will be automatically downloaded by your eyes, okay? Your eyes, what they see, are going to automatically take a video, picture, all the sound you hear, everything throughout the day is automatically recorded and stored into your chip, right? So now you don't need your smartphone. All your memories you need, all the things you need. Now what you can do is this. From your brain, you can take out the information from your chip, and you can bring that to your brain. So students won't need to study for exams anymore. You know what I'm saying? So you pretend to be so smart, but you're really so dumb. All right? But sorry to interject that, right? So then what happens next is this. Now this is the scary bit. This is the scary bit. I'm going to drop this, and if this actually happens in the future, it's so easy to understand how Dajjal is going to dominate, and he's going to have literally billions of people under his control in one go. So what happens is this. You're uploading information to your brain, you're downloading information, your own information, right? Now the company that made the chip, they can there's upgrades, right? Right now, you have your phones, they have an upgrade, or have software update, right? So what they do with their software update is they can download into your chip some information which you never heard of, which you never saw, which you never experienced. Not just you. Millions of people across the world perhaps billions of people across the world, at 1 second, 1 moment, they put in information, and suddenly I wake up and I say, oh no, did you hear about that accident that happened on the M25? And there was no accident on the M25, right? Yeah, he said, yeah, I experienced that as well. And then we say to the next one, hey, you heard about that? Yeah, someone told me yesterday, like someone said this yesterday. And you don't know where the information came from. And you believe in the information that's given to you by the companies. Now imagine this, those companies now have access to your brains because they can upload to your memory what you never had before. That's very dangerous. Now I don't know if that's going to become the reality, but this is something which Harari says in his book that is possible in the world that is coming forward. Anyway, Jazakallah khair. I'll end it here and we will open up to a really good Q&A inshallah.
I've already received 3 pages worth of questions, and this is just from the sisters I believe. Right, so brothers as well, I don't think we managed to take questions like just raise your hand because we won't have time, even to go through all of these. But Mulana, if you allow me just to mention a few things. First of all, we didn't expect so many people, right? But that's fantastic that alhamdulillah so many people have come. And of course that means loads of questions. But we do hope, inshallah, that this is not the last time that we have such a gathering. So over time we can, inshallah, have more, and whatever we don't answer, we'll bear it in mind. And in the future, inshallah, we can try to touch on some of these things in one way or another, inshallah. Also, in terms of questions, a lot of these questions are very, very deep, and perhaps, it'll take more than one lecture to cover them, so we might not be able to cover them. Also, some of the questions, what I would say, is what kind of questions would be best to ask here, in my humble opinion, and the ones I'm going to prioritize, are questions that are life questions. How do we get through this obstacle in life? How do you, what do you advise we do in this problem, in this, how do we get ahead in such and such thing? There are certain small things that we always end up asking on such occasions, which in my humble opinion is not the best use of our guests' time. So for example, Sheikh, should we say Ameen loudly or quietly? Or, should we make dua with our hands raised after Salah or not? Should we join our feet during Salah or not? Should we hold our hands here or there? The fact that we're asking this question means we probably do something already. Whatever you do, inshallah, is fine. If you say Ameen loudly, may Allah accept your Ameen. If you say Ameen quietly, may Allah accept your Ameen equally well. Ameen, right? So these questions, they're not the best use of time for an honored guest when they come. Whatever you are doing, inshallah, it is fine. So I'm going to prioritize the questions that are a bit broader than that. And also I'm going to give you Maulana any questions you want to answer from here. It is fine. So there was...
I'm going to ask you to actually stay. The main event was actually the Q&A, and there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out in the discussion on Q&A. So please stay. You might think the talk is over. The talk was actually an introduction to the whole topic of what we want to discuss and the kind of Q&A we want to have. So please stay for that, inshallah.
Yeah. So also there will be food at the end as well. We're working out how we're going to do that, inshallah, but you have patience for that as well. So one of them was, can we or should we buy games consoles for our children?
Wow, should we buy game consoles for our children? Right? The thing is, look, with game consoles, and guys, please, once you have a question or you answer the question, please, I really need silence in this hall. So if everyone can keep your phones away as well as chatting with each other, to a total minimum if you can. So look, console games, they've become a reality. I think every other house has got it. Some houses don't have it. Now, if you manage to have your house without any console games and that's how you're living, alhamdulillah, barakallahu feekum, may Allah bless you. Because I understand certain people are going to watch this, they've never entertained, they've never allowed any console games to come to the house, right? Now, it's always a constant battle with not only, you can keep your house as you want, but your kids are going to school, right? And they're seeing other kids that have got console games. And they're always hearing about these games. They're always hearing about these things that are going on and they're hearing their car. or your kids have got a life outside, whether they come to even the masjid, sometimes they come to the masjid and there's things that we've talked about, whether it's FIFA, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's some other game, what's the other one that people are into? What's the other ones? The one they shoot each other with? Call of Duty, la hawla. So whether it's that or something, the people are playing these games and people that are talking to each other about these games. Now, the thing is, look, this is the balance. Guys. And I have to make that decision about my own house as well. What do I do? So, one thing is, look, the adults in the house have to stick to the same rules in the house. There shouldn't be this thing that I go to mom doesn't allow it, but I go to dad allows it. I go to grandpa and he says to me he's going to give me 2 of them. Right? Because grandpa's on his way out. So he wants to show me as much love as he can before he's on his way out. Now there shouldn't be such things. Granddad, grandmother, mother, father, uncle, auntie, everyone, they all have to agree to the same rules, whatever it is. Some households are going to say, no console games, fine. All of you agree, all of you stick to it, inshallah, everything's going to go fine. One of the basic things you need in the house is, you need unanimous decision between all the adults, and no adult should change, okay? So now, if you decide to bring the console game, like for example, in my house, I decided to bring it in. Why? Because my kid, when he was really young, he had all his friends, cousins, everyone. The other problem is cousins' houses. They go to the cousin house, and the cousin house has got, they've got TVs, they've got all these, they've got this, that. So you've got to now decide, are you going to bring it in your house or not? Now, again, some families decide that you're not going to do it. Alhamdulillah, barakallah fikum. Some families decide that, you know what, I'm going to bring it in, but with rules. And that's what I do. So we basically put rules on our, and it was strictly abided by me and my wife. In my house, I never had the grandparents and other, individuals living there. So it's just me and my wife. And we decided that, you know what, we're going to set certain hours. From this hour to the hour you can play, and that's it. And then we changed those rules as time went along. The other thing was with TV, they can never switch on the TV without telling us what they're going to watch. And only then when we know, either we sit with them, or either we know exactly what they're going to watch, that's when we allow them to sit and watch. So when it came to those console games, we had set hours. First we saw that, we said to ourselves, let them play on the weekdays. And then what we found out is that, the concentration levels, after they switch off these things, their concentration levels are not there at all with their homework, with anything you want to do. So then for many years we made this rule, they can only play on the weekends. And weekdays we had all banned, a total ban on anything that was digital. Right? So no TV, no console games, nothing at all, right? During Monday to Friday. And that actually worked very well until the pandemic came. Once the pandemic came, you probably know, kids are with us at home all the time, and schools are said to us goodbye as well. You stay home. Boris Johnson said, also I'll pay you for your janaza, right? So it was kind of death, you're in your own little house deciding what to do. So things changed from the pandemic, which again we're trying to bring into control as we now get back to a normal life. But for many years we had this rule that Monday to Friday you have nothing at all. Alhamdulillah, right? Now one thing I'm going to say to you again, with my children, right? Especially my eldest child is actually sitting in this gathering right now. For many years he was asking me for a smartphone. And I said to him, he can't have a smartphone. All his friends had a smartphone. And he kept on coming to me every single year. He said, Dad, when can I get my smartphone? He was asking me from the age of 8 or 9. Well, when can I get? I said, you can't have it. He said, you can't have it. He got to the age of 11. He went to secondary school. All his friends had a smartphone. I said, look, son, you're not going to get a smartphone. You'll be all right without it. Whatever. I gave him the explanation. Every time I had to sit with him and explain to him. And every time I explained, alhamdulillah, he took it well. And I said to him, look, you're going to get to the age of 16. When you get to the age of 16, I'm going to give you the latest smartphone. Actually, the thing I said to him that time, I said to him, I'll give you a smartphone. He said, but Dad, I don't want an iPhone 6 like you at that time. Because the iPhone 6 is going to be a dinosaur. I thought, okay, I'll give you the latest smartphone at that time, which I did. I kept my promise. Why? Because I thought, let him get through that age. Look, a smartphone is what? A smartphone is you opening the entire world to everything and anything. Somebody gave a really good example on this. He said, if your living room window, front window, was clear glass, and you could see right through that glass. Imagine this. Every person in the world is now passing by your living room window. There are people who you wouldn't, drunkards are passing by there, There's people with, half-dressed clothes walking by there. There's people with all sorts of beliefs walking by there, and they're trying to get the attention of your child in your living room. Would you allow your child through that living room window to interact with all those people? Would you have? Yes or no, guys? No, you wouldn't. So why are you doing that with that glass window glass, right? The same thing you got as a screen. You're doing exactly the same thing, right? So what I said to my child is, at 16, when you get your phone, I'm going to share your passcode. Straight up. If you want to have your phone, I share the passcode. And right now, he knows I share his passcode. And anytime I will go into his phone. Not because I'm spying. Again, look, you have to have the balance between allowing them to find their own world and trusting them, and also being a caring father and caring mother. There's a very delicate balance you've got to get, because the moment you become like a father or mother that is intrusive, that wants to look in their phone, wants to catch them for something they've done wrong, okay? The moment you do that, they distance themselves from you. And the moment you let them go, you let your hands off, and you say, look, son, do whatever you like, you're an adult right now, and they're still young, they're only 16, 17, whatever, right? That's the moment they can end up doing something which you never would have wanted them to do. So I said to him that, look, you get married, then after that, inshallah, no more passcode with me, right? And then, you and your wife can sort it out together, right? But up until then, look, he's a young adult, he needs to still navigate through the world. And he still, look, even adults get caught with sins on these phones. Yes or no, guys? Right? Even adults get caught. So how is a young person, boy or girl, going to navigate through this without getting caught into something? Now, look, I'm gonna say something with here right now. You've got to be someone, look, who has a balance. Right? Balance. So when you ask me that question about, console games, you have to find your own balance in your house. I'm going to give you, look, many parents have come to me and they've said they can't stop their 15-year-old or 16-year-olds playing those games. They can't stop them. It's just impossible if they stop them. How did you get that bad? Shall I tell you? Because when you first gave it to them, you had no rules set. You just gave it to them. You just said to them to play. You allowed them to play whenever they came home, whenever they wanted, you allowed them to play. Now you can't control them. If you don't have rules when you give them these things, if you don't share the password, if you don't tell them that, look, if you don't get your homework done, son or daughter, I'm going to actually pull the plug on this and I'm going to take it away, and you actually do that. If you can't ban them for a day or two, look, I've banned my kids so many times from their games when they never listen to me. And these days, mashallah, you don't have to look. When I was small, I got boom, 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 bash, 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 single, yeah, big time. My dad had he had 7 sticks. He had a choice which one to use. He had different levels. And I'm not asking for anybody to go through that. But you know what? Worse damage than those sticks is to ban the kids from console games. You realize that? Because those kids, when they're onto those games, and you tell them, look, if you don't get your homework done, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, I'm going to ban you this many hours from your console game. They'll be like, no. Anything but that. They'll clean their rooms. They'll wash your dishes for you. They'll do whatever. I'm not asking you to actually have a factory in your house, right? But I'm trying to say to you, whatever you want them to get done, say, look, get that done, and then I'm going to let you play your games. Right? If you don't get it done, look, it's going to be a proper, you can't play that until you got it done. You know what? If you set those rules, things work fine. If you don't set the rules, you're in for a real nightmare. Because then GCSEs, A-levels, all that will go down the drain. You won't be able to control them.
In the meantime, while you're looking at the main question, which I'm sure is on everybody's mind, can I ask you it?
You can ask that. Could you do me one favor then?
Yes.
Ask me that question and then just tick for me the one that have to do with our topic today. Is that the process?
Yeah. The main question is, how did the screwdriver get in that guy's stomach?
This guy, I think it was a spanner or a screwdriver. So what did he had a challenge with his friends, right? So it was a challenge to see if he can put the screwdriver in and get it out again. You know, one of those things they do. So he put it in, you know those swords they put in and out, right? So he took a spanner or something, he put it in and out. When he put it in, he couldn't take it out, so he took it straight inside. Right, that's very wrong.
Okay. For the brothers, what we're going to do...
Mama, you had a question about how people learn the deen on social media.
Yeah, if you can.
Ask the question. Ask the question.
What we're going to do with the brothers, because there's even a larger number than sisters, is
I'll take it from there.
Yeah, we are going to maybe take questions, but we're going to take maybe 5 or 10 at a time. Yeah, and then we'll let the chef choose which one he like themes is, best to answer at the moment, otherwise we won't get much done. And the rest of them will bear them in mind. So please do ask your question, but remember we might not be able to come to it. Wallah, that might be better than just choosing one person and then have a little bit. Yeah, or the answers, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So, you want to ask a question? You want to leave the question to the one about learning the deen? Should we just take let's put a few questions there? So, what I'll do is, guys, if you just put your hands up as much as you can related to the speech I gave in the beginning, okay? As much as you can related to that, you can ask your questions. And anything to do with that, so anything to do with social media, anything to do with our phones, smartphones, or the question that we just answered right now about, console games and so on, anything to do with that. Can I have a few hands up and I'll take a few questions at a time? So, can I have a few hands up? Go on, young man, go on.
Go on, it's fine.
With the chip and you said they just add stuff, and they also delete stuff.
Alright, that's very interesting. So, the young man's asking for the sister's sake. So you have a chip in your skin, under your skin. They can upload, download stuff. So can they actually delete stuff from your memory? If that chip is actually connected to your brain, and if it has a function where your memories are stored on the chip, and you're no longer keeping them in your brain anymore, then it's possible to delete those things from the chip. But if it's a two-way process where it's in the brain and the chip, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to just delete those memories. Okay? I guess I'm not.
Can you forget that you've got family?
Sorry?
With the chip, can you forget that you've got family?
The question is, can you forget that you've got a family once you've got the chip inside you? The thing is, right now, people are somewhat forgetting about the surroundings. People are forgetting about the surroundings. People are forgetting about they're not totally forgetting their families right now, but they're not giving the value to family and to friends or to people who are real in the real world as they should do. Right? That's already happening. Now, when those VR sort of goggles or whatever they are, they come, people are going to go one step further with all of this. So people will actually, get zoned so much in this that the only time they need to come out is when they probably need to, need to sleep, I guess. Because even while you're eating, you can have them on. Right? Because you can see your table, you can see your food, and all the screen is still there in front of you, and you're still eating while you're catching up with whatever you've got in front of you. So I guess apart from sleeping, and even then, look, another thing that's happened is people have lost their sleep because of these technologies. In the days early, it was because of a film that they wanted to watch at 10 o'clock in the night. So that film is now going to be playing till 12 or 1 o'clock, so they have to stay awake till 1 o'clock to see the end of the film. These days, you can choose. See, people think they've got more freedom with having a choice of what you want to see. But that's not giving you more freedom, it's actually taking freedom away from you. Because you're now a slave to this technology. You're now in a world where you are driven to want to watch certain things. You're driven, and you're almost, you don't realize this, you're in a world now where you have to do this thing. But like, let's say, for example, there are certain games that have been made in a way that you collect chips and coins every day when you log in. Yes or no, guys? Yes? So what does that make you do every day? It makes you log in every single day for those chips and coins. There are certain games, if you don't play them within 24 hours, you're going to be back, you're going to be behind. So what are you doing? Every day you're logging in and playing those games to make sure that you're ahead in those leaderboards, right? Those leaderboards that you've got, those leaderboards are totally, they're fake, they're nothing. They're absolutely nothing. They mean nothing in the real world. People are losing sleep. People are sleeping late because of this, because of their Netflix, because of the things they want to watch, because of their, the smartphone, because of social media. People are sleeping late, waking up, early, having a sleep deprivation. Their own thinking in the real world has become slower because they're not giving enough time to their brains. Our brains need a rest. Average 7 hours a day. 7 hours is the average. Younger people need more, older people need less. But the average is 7 hours. We need to switch off our brains completely and give the rest. Do you realize that people are getting problems in their arms because of the amount of time they're holding up their phones? They're getting pins and needles in their arms. They've got bad blood circulation in their arms. People are getting back pains at early age. Why? Because they're sitting on their game chair too long. People are getting now problems in their legs. because they're not exercising enough, because of the fact that they're sitting on these chairs. So look, there's a number of things that are happening because of the fact that people are not getting off these devices. Anyway, another question from there. Yes, go.
So with Instagram and Facebook, you can also learn your deen with it.
Right.
There's also the risk of haram stuff as well.
Yes,
so what's the best option to either come off it completely or to risk, having the haram?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So I'll take a question just after one more should ask.
You were explaining about how you don't really have a choice. An example came to mind. So a person who's addicted to alcohol, for example, a person who's addicted to drugs, technically they have a choice. Every day before they drink the alcohol or before they have the drugs, technically speaking they have a choice. But in reality, they lost it because they're addicted to it. So likewise, we might think that we have a choice whether we watch or we engage with our phone, but because we've become addicted, we've actually lost that choice. And it's designed exactly for that reason, to give us addiction, without noticing we're addicted.
That's true, that's true. Without realizing, we're actually part of an entire infrastructure that has made us, engage in these things when you don't really have to. So the brother's question, which is, what do you do? What's the balance? Should you switch off, or should you stay on there because you can learn your religion from these devices? Now look, yes, you can learn your religion from these devices, and I'll tell you where the balance is. Right? The balance is, what am I doing? Can I control myself? This is the big question. Can I control myself? Am I controlling myself? So we know that every person, at some point or another, they're going to start start watching certain YouTube videos, certain Instagram or other videos that are useful to them, right? Because I myself, I find many documentaries on YouTube that are very useful, right? Many documentaries I found that are useful to learn a lot of things. So these places, you can learn a lot of good stuff. However, the big question is, what am I doing with my time? What percentage am I using all of this social media and the channels that are in front of me for useful information and to enhance my own learning, especially with Islam? And what percentage am I getting hooked onto these things, getting addicted and wasting my time? That's the key question. Now, you've got to ask yourself your question, because I told you 2 years ago I made it this thing, I'm never going to watch any of the recommended videos they give me. Because each recommended video they give me is literally to me. It's me. They know who Hasan Ali is. They know how old he is. They know what kind of videos I've watched. They know where I've scrolled. They know which things I actually like. They know what I don't like. They know what I've searched for. They've got all my search, all the things I've searched for. They know exactly what I've searched for, right? Based on that, they're going to give me the most juiciest, the most, like, I can't say no to that video. They're going to give me those kind of recommendations. So what I've done for myself is, look, I use social media, I watch YouTube, but I try my absolute best only to go to those areas which I need, right? I don't follow anyone, I don't go to anyone else's account, I don't care what's happened to you in your life, I don't understand your life from the social media. If you're going to tell me what's about your life, you've got to tell me through my phone, or better ring me or see me in real life and tell me something happened in your life. Otherwise, I don't use that for that reason. I just give my dawah out. Now, the brother said a really good thing, which is you can learn religion from some of these platforms. Yes, you can. So you need to now find a way to control yourself. So if you can do the same thing which I've done, which is go onto these devices and say to yourself, look, either you make yourself a set time, or a set few channels, or a set few, profiles that you're going to follow. And you stick to that. And you say, look, this person, this channel, that channel, they're giving me information which I like, which I need, which is good for me, my future and all that. Okay? And just watch those. And discipline yourself with the timing as well. So that's another thing we need to do, is discipline ourselves with timing. So one of the things that I try to do in my life is I try to get work out the way first, alright? I try to get work out the way first and get other things, all the important things out of the way before I sit down to relax with social media. So my social media time usually is the evening time when everything, all the lights have been switched off, when I'm relaxed, then I'll probably navigate and get whatever I want to get done, alright? Throughout the day, I myself, because I'm giving this dawah thing, I've set myself certain times that I will post something. So one is before I start my work, which is usually about 8 o'clock, something around 8 to 9 o'clock. One is about midday when I'm having a break, and one is after work. at about 7:30 in the evening, right? Just for people's, their own use, for your benefit. That's what I'm doing. So I've set those times. I know when those times come, I quickly go to there, find something, and I'll switch, and I'll post it, whatever, and then I've switched off. The only thing I might read is the comments that might come now and again. I might read that because those are important for me to know, whether people have found what I've found what I've uploaded useful or not useful. That's something that I do. Now, it's up to you how you use it, but certainly if you find yourself like, buying things on there which you never needed, you never would have ever needed these things, never would have wanted these things if you never saw them. If you're finding yourself doing that, if you're finding yourself following other people's lives and it's totally, useless, it's basically making your time wasted. If you find yourself looking at things that are haram, especially that are haram, because look, sometimes when I go to that section of Instagram, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, why would they give me, right? Out of all people, why would they give me like all these recommended videos with women that are half breast? Right? I try my absolute best not to even touch that part of the screen. But they give me, because they probably know I'm a mid-age 40 guy, whatever, I might find interest in that. And maybe there are loads of other 40-year-olds that like that, but I'm not certainly in that crowd. But they give that based on the information they've collected of me, or my age group that I'm in. So if you're a person on Instagram or something like that, you're going to have these recommendations. Now, should you be engaging with something that your eyes are becoming sinful, your ears are becoming sinful, your heart now is sinful, now your heart has got sins in there, it's not going to connect with the Quran, not going to enjoy Salah, it's not going to enjoy connecting with Allah. No, you shouldn't. So therefore, I made my thing, I don't want to touch those parts of the screen that give me those recommended videos. So it's up to you how you use it, but certainly a lot of people are connecting with their deen through this. We're not going to say no to that, but it's up to you how you control yourself. Yes.
So, quick question. Although we're talking about social media platforms, one of the things we see in current day and age, especially as a father of the youngsters, we've also got Sheikh Google on hand as well, giving fatwas. And we've seen, especially the young generation, going the wrong way. Sometimes, they've been told, mashallah, Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, everything. But also at the same time, they're going the wrong way. How do we navigate through that as especially for youngsters? How do they, overcome that sort of obstacle, and also as parents?
That's a brilliant, that's exactly what Imam Muhil was discussing with me earlier on, which is, look, you youngsters, we love you for the sake of Allah, guys. Yeah? What I'm going to say next, please, is not to put you down, and it's not to make you go away from us, people who are telling you about the religion, okay? You have we love you for the sake of Allah. But what you've got to understand, guys, is information 30 years ago, if I wanted to know something, I had to go to my local masjid, I had to go to my local imam, I had to go and pick up a book, a physical book. I had to pick a physical book, pick it up, read it, find the hadith, find the section, and understand my religion. There was no such thing as a quote-unquote quick, within seconds, within 10 seconds, within 1 minute, learning an entire part of the deen, because I've got a social media video that in WhatsApp or something else that tells me straight away, oh, there's this hadith, that shaykh or so-and-so has said this particular hadith, and it's in Bukhari or it's in Tirmidhi or whatever it is, and I know the reference number, and I'm now going to tell everyone about it. Look, there's no such thing. Why? I'll tell you why. Right? Because look, Rasulullah lived 23 years as a prophet, right? 23 years. In 23 years, you've got 23 times 355 lunar calendar days. 355 times 23. Can anyone do a quick calculation on your phone while I get to the next point, right? Someone take a calculator out and do that maths right now. So what we've got is, we've got that many days, Rasulullah sallallahu, what was it? 8165. Is that correct? 8165. So 8,165 days Rasulullah sallallahu is a prophet. Okay? 8,165 days of hadith. Every day he's saying something. 8,165 days where this ayah came, that ayah. Now we know all the verses. There are 6,236 verses. Now all those verses, all those hadiths, 8,165 days when he did this action, that action, that action. Sometimes we know he raised his hands, sometimes we know he never raised his hands, sometimes he said Ameen loudly, sometimes Ameen quietly, and so on. So there's hadith for this, there's hadith for that. Now, how are you going to understand a life of 23 years, 23 years in 1 minute? How do you do that? You now come to your Instagram pop-up or your WhatsApp video that's been sent to you, 2 minutes of a video that tells you Salah has to be read like this, or your parents are wrong because they believed in this all their lives, and straight away you come to your parents, you know, Dad, you're doing bid'ah, Mom, you're doing bid'ah. Now, how do you now understand that thing in 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or even you watched an entire lecture that was 2 hours long? How do you now put their lives, your forefathers' lives, everything together, and you compare it to these few minutes that you watched? What I'm going to say to you is this, look guys. Guys, you studied GCSEs. When you do GCSEs, there's 2 years of preparation before you sit that one exam. Yes or no, guys? Can you sit that exam after studying for 5 minutes, or 5 hours, or 5 days, or 5 weeks, or 5 months? Can you do that? No, you can't. Only a super intelligent person, maybe in 5 months of day-night study, maybe they might be able to sit for it. But most of us, 99% of us, we need the 1 to 2 years to sit the GCSE. Now I'm going to talk to you about your A-levels. When you get to your A-levels, you know, let's say for example, GCSE science you did, right? You studied 2 years of physics, of biology, and of, what's the other one you got? The chemistry, right? 3 of them. You studied that every single week for 2 years. Then you come to, you're doing A-level biology right now. Guys, tell me this right now, yeah? 2 years or 3 years you're going to do A-levels. You're now narrowing it down just to physics or just to biology. Doesn't your GCSE look like a baby when you're studying your A-levels? Yes or no, guys? Tell me. Yes, it looks like I was wasting my time in GCSE. My gosh, I never knew anything about it. What? I was there sitting learning this simple stuff for GCSE for over 2 years. Well, now I'm in the real world. I'm in the real stuff, right? Until you get to your degree level. So 4 years now, you're going to go into a specific field of physics or specific field of biology. Maybe you're going to become a doctor right now, so you're going to start studying medicine right now because of your biology A-level. Now you tell me, right, the moment you touch the degree level, the moment you're actually going to spend 6 years becoming a doctor, doesn't your GCSE look like a fetus in the womb right now? Doesn't it look like a little, you know, a little thing that it was like nothing at all compared to what you're doing? Am I right, yes or no, guys? Yes? So now you can see what scholarship is. Scholarship is not you picking up Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari, and finding one verse, one hadith there, and one verse in the Quran there. That's not what scholarship is. Scholarship, people who become imams, like look, Mawlana Muhyiddin, who's here right now, he's an imam. He spent 7 years in a madrasa, in boarding, studying the religion of Islam before he became an imam. Right? He had to study the seerah, he had to study usul fiqh, he had to study, you know, the whole of jurisprudence and law, he had to study hadith, he had to study the science of hadith, he had to study syntax, he had to study grammar, he had to learn the whole of the Arabic language, he had to study tafsir of the Quran from one end to another, he had to study all the complex words in the entire Quran, he had to study all the complex words in the whole of the Quran, whole of the heritage of hadith. He had to study, when this hadith contradicts that hadith, what do you do? He had to study the Shafi, parts of the Shafi madhab, he had to study the Hanafi madhab, he had to study how the Hanbali madhab might work in its infrastructure, he had to study parts of the Maliki madhab when they clash with his Hanafi madhab, he had to study what other imams said, he had to study Aqidah in so much detail over a number of years, he had to study so much parts of jurisprudence, of inheritance, of so many things, family law, this law, that law, okay? 7 years he spent that he becomes an imam, alright? Now let me tell you what happens after this, right? It's a very funny world we're living in. So Mawlana Muhyiddin, he spent that. I've spent that in my time when I was in Madrasa as well, alright? I spent that. Now, some young dude comes along, right? Right? He's just basically just suddenly gone to ISOC, he's done a few hadith there, yeah, akhi, bismillah, let's do that, which is all fine, guys. I love you for the sake of Allah. I've got nothing against you in raising your hands, right? I've never in one of my lectures ever said to you, don't raise your hands. I've never in one lecture of mine said, don't say Ameen loudly. I say Ameen quietly. I don't raise my hands, okay? But if you're a youngster and you say, well, Sahih Hadith here, and I raise my hands, and you're the youngster, you say, I'm going to say Amin Labi, Barakallahu Fik, may Allah bless you, may Allah bless you, Salah, say Amin. Right? I've never had an issue with that. My issue is something else. My issue is, what are your principles? What are your principles? Because your principles, if it's Bukhari first and it's Muslim next, your principle is Abu Dawud next, then always stick to that. I've got no problem with that. If you always stick to Bukhari first, then Muslim next, Abu Dawud next, Tirmidhi next, and that's your way you're going, you know what, you follow madhab. This is your madhab. These are the principles you base your understanding upon. If you want to know more about this, I've got a talk on the internet called So Who's Right? So Who's Right? With a question mark. Put my name on YouTube. You'll see the entire lecture where I explain all of this. I've got nothing against Salafis. I've got nothing against people following a different way. But you've got to understand. You've got to have your principles. The moment you follow your principles and you've got a set amount of principles, alhamdulillah, look, Sheikh bin Baz had his principles, okay? Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah had his principles. Right? Shaykh Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah had his principles. They all had principles they stuck with. Shaykh Uthaymeen, he had his principles. They weren't men without principles. They were scholars who had principles and they followed Hadith and Quran according to those principles. I follow the Hanafi madhab. I don't follow Imam Abu Hanifa. I follow Imam Abu Hanifa's understanding with an entire group of scholars, hundreds and thousands of scholars understanding of Imam Abu Hanifa's teacher and his teacher and his teacher, whether you say it's Al-Qama and Imam al-Nakhai, you say it's right to Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, right? So Ibn Mas'ud and Ali radiallahu anhu were the main two teachers in Iraq. From Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They spread their understanding of the Quran and Sunnah in Iraq. Okay? Their student, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he was part of a massive pyramid of scholars who had their own way of looking at the Quran and Sunnah. Okay? Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik or Imam Ahmad, they all had hundreds and thousands of scholars that link them to a particular Sahabi, to a particular Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Today, whether you talk to me about Sheikh bin Baz, whether you say even Sheikh Albani, right, rahimahullah, they had principles. Look, Sheikh Albani, he had his look on hadith. He had his own principles. He based it on many different studies and many different principles he put together. Now, what you can't do is this. This is one thing no scholars can accept. Neither Sheikh bin Baz, nor Sheikh Albani, nor Sheikh Uthaymeen, nor Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, nor Imam Abu Hanifa, nor any single scholar in the past is going to agree with you picking and choosing. You can't say, well, I think this is the most authentic because of this one. So today I'm going to take from Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Tomorrow I'm going to take from so-and-so rahimahullah. Next day, you know what? I'm not feeling comfortable with this one. I need to combine my prayers. So I'm going to basically find another scholar who says I can combine my prayers. Yeah, that's my sheikh today. Right? So I'm going to take these. Whoever does this, according to all imams, is lost. Whoever does this, according to all imams, is lost. But the second thing is that, look, for you to know which hadith you're taking and which ayah you're taking, why you're practicing, where are your principles? What have you studied? And I'm not putting you down, wallahi, I'm not putting you down. Look, I just told you, look, he spent 7 years studying all of this. And even then, he came to, the teachers on our graduation day, they said to us that we are today true students of knowledge. They never said we're scholars. They said, today, we've given you all the tools to learn. Today, now you can go on further, do your own studies and learn the religion. So now the question is, look, if you don't know Arabic, this is the problem here, look. You found a hadith on Google. Do you know whether the hadith is actually authentic or not? You don't know, because you're going to go with whatever that person said on the internet in Google. You're just going to go along with that. Me and Mullah Muhyiddin, for example, we can go to the books, we can do the research, we'll find the Arabic hadith, we'll find the commentary, we'll find several scholars of their commentaries on that hadith, and we can come to a conclusion of whether it's sahih or da'if based on the Arabic research that we do. You're going to go along the internet, English that you found. Okay, that's one thing. Second is, that hadith you found. How many other hadith are there in all the books of hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? 8,165 days. How many hadith are there for you to compare it with what's contradicting with this hadith? You wouldn't even know. Third thing is, let's say you find the contradicting hadith. What do you know? Scholars have said which hadith to prioritize over what hadith. How do you understand a hadith in a particular context? Now I'm going to add one more thing to this. Look, guys, what's happened is this: the internet and the screens that we've got, they make us believe the guy behind the screen. When we watch them over a number of years, we think, man, that guy knows all of it. And most of those people who become famous on YouTube, famous on these social platforms, they're people who are very charismatic. The people who are very charismatic, their English is very good, they've got really good, nice, fluent language, they're able to, keep you hooked on to listening to them. They might crack jokes, they might say wonderful things, they might say things out the box that you've never heard, they might tell you things in a way that you think, wow, you know what? That guy knows it, man. But what do you know about those people on the screen? You know what happens after that? You come to your local masjid, you listen to Mullah Muhi, you listen to Mullah Khairul over here, and you kind of think, well, Mullah Muhi and Mullah Khairul, they're not as knowledgeable as those guys on the internet. Why? Because Mullah Muhi is not as charismatic. But does that take away his 7 years? Does that take away his scholarship? It doesn't. Does that make him any less than that person on the thing? No, it doesn't. I'll tell you one thing what happened. Look, 2004 was the first time we had this, 2003, first time we had Islam channel in this country, right? First time Salat. So I went on there. I went on straight on there. You know what I found? I'm not gonna take anyone's name and backbite them. Right? They called me, they invited me, I went on there for a number of years and I had my program there. But you know what I found after that? Anyone who wanted to come with a beard, with a short beard, anyone who could get behind that screen and talk and keep people mesmerized, not just about Islam channel, all the TV channels. They will put anyone there who attracts the crowds. They have got true scholars on there, but they've got other people who are not scholars at all, who've got no knowledge at all, who don't know Arabic at all, but they know how to speak. They know Islamic things, they've engaged with different people and they've got a certain amount of knowledge about Islam. But they're not scholars, they don't know Arabic, and there are many out there who are speaking. Now the danger is this: the moment someone who's not a real scholar, who hasn't studied 7, 8, whatever number of years with real scholars, who hasn't got a discipline, the moment they say something which is wrong in the deen, that's the moment you're going to take the religion off them and you've now learned the wrong religion. You've learned an ayah the wrong way. You've learned a hadith that's completely what Rasulullah never even meant. And you've absorbed that. You've actually taken that in. Now, people then come to Mullah Muhi and Mullah Khairul and people like me and then challenge us and they'll say, you don't know what you're talking about. Because that's what, how can he be wrong when he's got 300,000 followers? How can he be wrong when he's got 1 million followers? Oh my Allah, oh my days, you're the one who's going to get, exposed right now. People do this. But the thing is, look, your question is, guys, learn your religion from the real sources. And one thing I'm going to say right now, and we'll go to the next question right now, is what? Your local imams, they are treasures. Your local imams, wherever they are treasures. Please benefit from them. Even though they might not be so charismatic, please learn from them. Join their halaqas, join their circles, join their programs they've got in the masjid. What you're going to learn in the masjid is two things. One is the religion, but one is suhbah, which is real companionship. No religion in Islam was ever learned without companionship. It's the first time in 1450 years that we've got religion being learned without real companionship. People are now learning religion through the screen. People now learning religion through the screen. Nowhere in the history of Islam people ever did this. 1420 years more or less, people came to the feet of scholars. They came to real scholars. They spent real time with them. Their silence was also something they learned of. Their mannerism, their character. When you go to real people, there's an effect that you have that is different from learning from the screen. And when you have real people, look, real people, you can judge them. Look, Mullah Muhi, he's an imam here. How long have you been imam here, Mullah? 5 years. Mullah Khairul, how long have you been imam? 6 years. Mullah Khairul, 6 years. Mullah Muhi, 5 years here imam. So 8 years. 8 years. Okay, now, you know what's going to happen? Look, you're living in this local place. Mullah Muhi is living with you. If Mullah Muhi does anything wrong, if Mullah Khairul does anything wrong, Allah billah, may Allah protect him, say Ameen.
Ameen.
If there is anything wrong, it's in front of your eyes. It's in front of your eyes. It's in the streets, it's in the masjid, it's in your houses, it's in your local place. You've got a character reference of them right in front of your eyes. They grew up in a society where your fathers grew up. Yes or no, guys? Yeah. Your fathers knew their fathers. They knew Muhammad's father, rahimahullah. They knew their character. So they're basically basing this on real people, real life, real characters. When I'm on the screen, guys, when you see me on the screen on YouTube, that's me 2 hours speaking to you. If you don't see me in my place in London, if you don't live with me, you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. I can be on the screen, I can be, yeah, what's up guys, this is that, blah, 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 blah. I speak to you. Once the screen's gone, I can do anything I want. You don't know who I am. You don't know, I have no characteristics of me. You don't know what life I'm leading. You don't know how I'm practicing Islam. But they're in front of you. They're leading your salah in the masjid. You know, a lot of these people who are on the screen, they're not even connected to masjids. They're not even connected to imams. Some of them are, some of them are not. Some of them have the lives that you will actually say, Ya Allah, I couldn't even believe how their life is in reality and what their life is. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them, mashallah, they're very good imams online. Very good imams learn from that. How do you know which imam to learn from? Right? Simple thing. Come to your local imam, ask them. I found this scholar on the internet. Can you please tell me if I can follow him, if I can learn from him? That's why I've taken so long on this one question. Yeah, please.
In the meantime, you can just choose any question. The food is here, by the way. It's just being prepared for you to eat. So inshallah, you can do that. What I would say also, Maulana, so I was saying, obviously he's put the spotlight on me, but I'm not the only one who studied. Obviously, my colleague, Maulana Saeed, who's just graduated, and we have many people. The reality is, in our community, we are fortunate that we have many people. I just went earlier today to a community where they have nobody. There's no, I visited a new masjid, and there was nobody in that community who is Hafid of the Quran, nobody who has been away, who has left the community and gone to study. Here, we are so fortunate that when it comes to Taraweeh, we have more people than we can accommodate. So please take advantage of that. What I wanted to say is, when we follow somebody online, for example, one of the things I would request is that we remain humble. If I read a website on a scholar and that scholar, convinces me, the reality is, as much as he tells me a quote from Quran, as much as he tells me a quote from Hadith, I'm still blindly following him. That's no criticism. We all blindly follow. But even just because he quoted and he said it's in Bukhari or it's in Muslim, or he said, Wallahi ya'ni billahi tallahi akhi ya akhi, that doesn't mean that you now actually know. You're still blindly following. It's just, you think you know. So that doesn't mean that you're following the most knowledgeable person in the world. There are people in the villages of Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Morocco, Egypt, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, any country in the world that are more knowledgeable, who probably don't even have a smartphone until today, but they are more knowledgeable than probably any scholar who has a social media presence. So don't think just because you heard an argument and it sounded convincing to you that you now know more than your brother who's following, or your uncle who was following his own imam in his village. That doesn't mean that. Why? Because even if we hear an argument, we're limited to our understanding. For example, if I give a political example, we all know of Donald Trump, right? I wonder how many people here really think he's a worthy leader, right? Okay, I'd be surprised if there are many people. But how many people are there who listen to him and thought, this guy is, this is it, this guy is so good that we want to entrust our affairs to him, right? Why? Because they heard what he said and they were convinced by it. They thought that they were hearing the most wise person in that context, right? That could be you and I. So what is the point I'm trying to make? If you follow somebody, that's between you and Allah. Don't start looking down on somebody else and think it's just that the person you follow, their language appeals to you. Maybe their language appeals to you because your language level is very low. Reality, maybe this website, this YouTube channel, it appeals to you because maybe your level is on that. Maybe there are people in the world whose level is higher, and so on and so forth. So, we should remain humble and not look down on, others, especially our parents and our elders, because they're doing something different.
I think there's a really nice question here from someone about exposure of sins on social media, the dangers of it. So, look guys, WhatsApp, we normally get messages straight to our WhatsApp, and you normally you can forward that message. Now they've limited it to 5 people at a time. There was a time when you could forward to all your contacts. Even 5 people at a time when you're forwarding that message, and those 5 people can spread to another 5 each, which is 25. Those 25, when they do another 5 each, it's going to be 125, right? So it's just multiplying each time. So now, there's one thing that's important here. Whatever hadith quotation you've got, whatever thing you've heard about the other person. Let's say, for example, I've heard about someone's done something bad in the community. Whatever I've heard, please don't spread anything until you verify the information. Sometimes people are spreading fabricated hadith. Hadith that actually is like Rasulullah never said. It's a sin to even quote. It's a sin to quote a hadith that's fabricated without telling people that it's fabricated. Right? So now if you're spreading that, you're sinful in spreading that information. Now, sometimes there are da'if hadith, sometimes there are information about Islam that is totally incorrect, and people are spreading that to hundreds and thousands of people, and especially with sins. If you're exposing someone, please remember one hadith. One hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, he said that Man satara musliman, whoever will conceal the fault of a Muslim in this world, Allah will conceal their fault on the day of judgment. And whoever exposes a Muslim in this world, basically without a reason to do that, then you're going to have one of your faults exposed in front of the entire creation on the day of judgment. May Allah protect us. Right? So before you send it, what you should do is verify. Go to the real person, whoever it's about. Can I ask you so and so, is this true about you? Because I just received a WhatsApp message about you that you did this and that. Go to the person, go to the source. And don't spread it. Don't spread people. Even if he did something wrong, he doesn't deserve, or she doesn't deserve to have another 2,000 people, another 3,000 people in the community knowing about that thing. Unless they don't care about what they've done wrong. So Imam Nawawi says it very clearly that if there's a person who is now let's say, for example, in our community, we had somebody who's selling drugs. If somebody's selling drugs and he's a Muslim, and we've gone up to that person and said, brother, please stop selling your drugs, stop corrupting our youth. And that person said, no, I don't care, I'm going to carry on selling my drugs. I want to make money. And if there's such a person like that, then you're allowed to tell the entire community, stay away from this person because that person might give your kids or your brother or your sister some drugs, okay? Only then you do that. Otherwise, we're not supposed to expose people on these platforms because it really becomes very messy. And, you know, there's one thing which one scholar said, there's a hadith that says, near the end of time, a person will do riba of 100,000 people at one go. They'll basically be backbiting 100,000 people at one go. Now the scholars of hadith couldn't understand how is it possible that you're going to do that. But in today's world, it's very clear. You send one message and it goes viral, gets 100,000 views, and you basically, if it's riba, if it's backbiting, you literally one go, you backbited 100,000 people about one thing. So may Allah protect us from this. Can I ask you one question?
How do you get memory card for your game?
How do you get, sorry?
Memory card for your game.
Memory card?
Yeah.
How do you get it? Okay, fine. We'll keep that question later. Anybody else from the men's side? Yes.
No, everyone watches YouTube to see, say, corner speech.
Oh, yeah.
And
Speaker's corner.
Speaker's corner, sorry, something like that. And a lot of people just get to know these youngsters to think, I call them like probably one of these imam subs that think they know everything. Why can't we have more, the mosque doing local speeches like what you're doing today, instead of every once in a while? Shouldn't we be having more local talks like how you're doing every couple of weeks, instead of people looking in YouTube and watching videos?
Yeah, the thing is, look, you know, our speech is here. So the brother asked a question for the sister's sake and for the camera's sake. He's saying that, you know, you've got Speaker's Corner. What park is that in? Hyde Park, right? Speaker's Corner. Why is it that, you know, that there's a lot of people that watch those speeches and then they might see some of those people there as celebrities or people that they want to learn from, or basically go video after video learning from them. Why don't we have more speeches in the masjid like this about issues? The thing is, look, you know, today coming here, sitting here, having the someone to put your phone away, right? It takes a lot of effort, right? Especially it's Halloween's night when people could be out there with all these other kids out there, right? It's a lot of effort, right? Another thing is, look, we're sitting here, you're not going to get every single speech that's charismatic in the masjid. In the masjid, after a little while, I remember one Imam said this, he said, when you open Sahih Bukhari, right, and you start to talk about Imam Bukhari, this hadith, that hadith, the whole masjid gets full. MashaAllah, we're going to go to Sahih Bukhari, right? But as soon as you've gone to the intricate details of Sahih Bukhari, suddenly a hadith comes with how to do your ruku, how to do your sujood. By that time, most people have gone. Like, who wants to talk about how to do sujood or how to... I can go to Speaker's Corner and watch a video, I'll be more entertained by that, right? So these videos are very entertaining, and I'm going to share something with you. In all my years, I've never been to Speaker's Corner, and I've never watched a single video of Speaker's Corner. I've never watched a single one. I've always heard like there are mad people over there who are shouting, putting people down. The dalil is the biggest dalil. Like that guy brings a dalil that looks like an AK-47, not literally, basically, you know, that kind of thing, like metaphorically. Some other guy brings a bazooka of a dalil, right? Another guy shouts his way through and he's dalil, wow, I shamed him up and I embarrassed him and so on. And Speaker's Corner is a corner where you can speak anything, right? So there's freedom of speech, what they say. Now, the thing is, why haven't I ever watched any of that? Because to me, look, it's like, can you really learn your religion from there? And the answer is no, you can't. Number one. A lot of youngsters are learning their religion from there, but that's the wrong place to learn your religion, seriously. If you're there for entertainment, if you're there for feeling a little bit like a buzz, like, yeah, my guy went there, and my guy gave a dalil which the other guy couldn't give a reply to, you can watch one or two videos like that. But where will you learn your religion? Your religion is learned in the masjid. It's learned with real imams. It's learned with real people. It's learned from real halaqah. It's learned from real books of Islam that have been, researched. It's learned from people who learned their religion from other imams. That's how you learn your religion. You don't really look. If I go to Speaker's Corner right now, I'm going to hear some next level dalil of the Quran over the Bible, for example. That doesn't make me a person who knows Islam any better. I only now know another dalil in the Quran about something about Christianity, against Christianity, against the Bible. But it doesn't make me a better Muslim in my deen. Because as I said to you earlier, look, when these imams learn religion, I'm not asking everyone to learn religion over 7 years. But look, even the little you want to know, please go to people who learn their religion over a number of years, okay? And that's where you're going to learn your real religion from. So to your question again, it's very charismatic. There's a lot of people out there that want to have fun. They want to pass time by people. One thing people do is they go to Speaker's Corner videos and they want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel like, yeah, I'm proud to be a Muslim. Yeah, my dalil is the strongest. But really, all in all, what you're looking at is you're looking at a cussing match. You're looking at someone who's better at shaming somebody down. But that's not what our religion has taught us. Our religion never said shame somebody down, to bash your dalil on somebody's head to try and get your religion to become stronger. That's not what it is. Dalail and evidence is based on real factual stuff, which doesn't really come out in Speaker's Corner. That's all I can say. It's going to take me a lot longer time to explain all of that through an example, so I'll leave you to that. One more time because food is given out.
I think I'm just going to rephrase this question. I think in other words, Jordan is asking when you come back next.
Or you can pass the continuation to Imam Cairo, Maulana Muhyiddin, so they can continue it.
Also on behalf of our Masjid committee and our community at large, would be grateful if you can turn up and share.
Inshallah, I will come back. This is one of my local masjids, and inshallah, I will give more when I can, inshallah. But look, when I'm not here, who are you going to go to learn from? The imams that you've got, learn from them. And you've got many other learning people in the community who are there, please learn from them. And also, the recommendation of any social media, any YouTube channels, any videos that you see, if you want to know whether to look at them, many of those videos, please ask your local imams.
Well, I'm just going to add one. course, not everybody, people feel hesitant. You know, like we go on Amazon, if there's like one review of something, you think, oh, maybe this is good. You know, maybe if you ask me, you might think maybe you can ask, I mean, just for your peace of mind, I'm not saying you have to do this or you should do this, but you can ask 10 imams. If you ask, what you will find, inshallah, is that you will find 9 out of 10 agreeing. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes we come across somebody online and we think they're so inspirational, and we go to the local imam, and the local imam says it's better for you not to listen to this person because they have some dangerous ideas, or they didn't study, they don't have qualifications. Our nafs says to us that this imam is probably wrong. He probably doesn't know. Maybe, I don't know, Shaitan can say anything. Maybe he's jealous of me. Maybe he doesn't want, you know, something like that. If Shaitan says that to you, if your nafs says that to you, go and ask 10 imams, right? But make sure you ask people, as Sheikh said, who are accountable people, who have some sort of, you know, accreditation. What you will find is either if you ask 10 of them will say the same thing, or at least 9 of them will say the same thing, then you will have peace of mind. There's examples, remember, we have somebody on YouTube gave a theory, right? This theory sounded really juicy to you, something about Dajjal, something about Yajuj Majuj, something about, you know, end of times. As youngsters, we all like to dream about the end of time. It's our alternative to sci-fi, right? So we heard something, and it sounds really juicy. We asked the local imam, he said, no, this is full of rubbish, right? But what our nafs says to us, or Shaitan says to us, no, the imam doesn't know. You know, this imam, he actually doesn't know. The one I watched on YouTube, he must know more. So to prove your theory, go and ask an imam who's older than him, ask one who's younger than him. If you think he's Bengali, go and ask a Pakistani one. If you don't trust Asians, go and ask a Moroccan one. Right? If you don't trust one that studied in this one, so go and ask one who studied in Egypt. If you don't trust Egyptians, ask one who studied in Morocco. Right? But you will probably find that then you will come to like some sort of authentic information. But bear in mind that Shaitan and Nafs is working on you. You know, when you have that instinctive reaction, more likely than not, that's not Allah giving you inspiration, ilham, what we call it. More likely than not, that is your nafs or Shaitan trying to convince you to do what is actually not good for you. So, you know, by all means,
I was going to add something to that, right? I was going to add something to that which is a little bit funny. I grew up in a town in this country called Walsall, right, which is next to Birmingham, right? So just like Imam Muhyiddin, by some of the elders here, you're just going to look at him and say, they're going to look at him and say, he's a little kid, right? That's how you look at him. So I'm also, when I go to Walsall, I'm a little bacha, I'm a little batiza, right? I'm a little nephew, like, oh, that little kid, you saw him growing up in front of us. So I remember at 14 years of age, I went to Madrasa and I studied there. I actually studied for 9 years. There's my hibs over a couple of years, and I studied another sort of 7 years to become, you know, to finish the whole Alimiyya degree. So every time I came home, every time I came to my local masjid in Walsall, they always looked at me as a little kid. Right? My father was there, rahimahullah. They always saw me as a little child, little kid. Okay? I graduated at 23. I was still a little kid to them. I went all the way to, you know, 25 years old. I got married. I'm still a little kid to them. I had my kid at 29. I'm still a little kid to them. Okay? So I'm still kid, right? And every time I come to the masjid, they're always like, you know, they're not going to tell me, okay, now and again they're not telling me to leave the salam, but normally it's like, oh, he's in the back row. Some people might say salam to me and some people not. I don't care because I'm not there to impress anyone. They see me as a local, a little kid, and that's it, okay? Then what happened is, remember I told you about Islam Channel, right? So I went in Islam Channel in 2003 and 4 or whatever it came out. For a couple of years I was in Islam Channel. The next time, in 2006 or something, I went to Walsall, in my local masjid, same masjid, I've always been a kid, right? I went to the back row. I came for Jum'ah, I came to see my brothers over there. I came to the back row. Now imagine this, the masjid is full of maybe 300 to 400 people, right? I'm at the back row. Some committee member, he turned his head around and he saw me sitting there. He got up, he looked at me, pointed at me and said, Islam Channel, right? Literally pointed at me and said, Islam Channel. And I said, Assalamu alaikum, uncle, assalamu alaikum. He grabbed my hand, he pulled me up. I said, you know what you mean? He said, no, you've got to come. And now, literally, this is Jum'ah. the Imam is on the minbar giving the pre-khutbah talk. You know, you have a talk before the actual khutbah. He's an elderly person. He's 55 years old, right? He's been the Imam here for 20 years, right? He's sitting on the minbar, he's giving a speech. This committee member drags me through all the lines, takes me all the way to the front, and he says, to everyone, says, Islam channel. We've got, you know, this person, he comes on Islam channel, he's going to speak. And I said, look, don't do this, because I want you to respect the Imam. I really felt so bad. He took the Imam off the minbar. I felt so bad. I really felt bad. He put me on the minbar and said, I'm going to be sat the matzah. And you will talk 10 minutes to all of us, right? Okay, I sat there, I talked to 10 minutes, and then the Imam gave the khutbah and he gave the salah. But you know what? I thought that day, La ilaha illallah. I've been a kid to all these people for all these years, right? I've been a little kid in the background, right? Doesn't matter how old I am, I got married, I had a kid, I'm still a kid to them. The moment I went on Islam channel, I became somebody very different, like everybody coming up to me, salam, hugging me, seeing me very differently, because right now, they all got, you know, Sky in their homes, and in those days, they're watching Islam channel every single day, and they see my face. Just because they saw my face, they saw me in different light. I give you another one, right? Mufti Barakatullah, who's in Finchley. Mufti Barakatullah, you know who's in Finchley, right? He told me this. He said this to me in 2010 or something. He said he had a question from a certain woman. He gave the answer. The woman told nothing of it. She said, okay, salam alaikum, she put the phone down. Then he went on Islam channel and he spoke. And he had a question, the same question, and he gave that answer. He gave that on Islam channel, that's fine. He came back to his masjid. The same woman, last week she phoned him, she called him again. And she asked him the same question. He gave the same answer last week. You know what she said? She said, someone like you, speaks like you, gave the exact answer on Islam channel, and you gave the same answer. Yeah, I'm going to believe you because you gave the same answer as the one on Islam channel. He's thinking, I'm the same person last week, I'm the same person on Islam channel, and I'm the same person today, but they believe me today because I came on Islam channel and they rejected me last week because I wasn't on TV, that was it. Right? That's the psychological effect that we have as people, honestly, because we've seen someone behind the screen. And you've got to understand this is a lack of our own understanding of how we should give credibility to people and the knowledge that they possess.
Also, Sheikh, another question where you see a lot of brothers converted to Islam. Brothers came into our mosque for the last few years. A lot of brothers in Shahada. What would be your advice, especially to the community members? I mean, you know, these brothers are new, and then there's brothers saying, "Oh, this is how you should pray, or you shouldn't pray like this." What would your advice be in terms of how to approach these brothers, and what's the best dawah as a community we can give them?
Okay, the first thing is, I'm going to ask all the people here, if you've got a good maktab system, so good, when I say maktab, I mean a madrasa which runs after the school or runs on the weekends in your masjid. If you've got a good system like that in your local masjid, please set up a good system, and number two is please send your children there. Doesn't matter who you are, please send your children there. A lot of people are thinking now that I'm not going to send my children there, I'm going to get a private imam in my house to teach them. Private imam in your house is going to just teach you maybe how to read the Quran and a few masail, a few things about salah and so on. But what your child will not get is your child will not get an identity. When they come to the masjid, when they grow up with so many other children, when they have these imams every single day, when they are part of the masjid environment, they form an identity. They know that, you know what, I grew up with all these kids, all these guys, all these imams, all these members of the community. I am part of this entire identity. Like, for example, in this masjid, if you've got a background, look, we're not telling you to become of the same background, we're not doing that. But whatever background you're from, you should have your own identity. Like, for example, we've got some Somali brothers here. They've got the Somali imams. They've got the Somalia has got a lot of people with a strong faith, strong religious understanding, strong aqidah as well, right? And I rate these people who are, you Somalian boys and girls should have that connection with your identity. We've got a lot of Bengalis in this masjid. You're probably predominantly from a Hanafi madhab background. Look, your Hanafi madhab is stretching over 1400 years. of scholarship. It's not just come out yesterday, right? Just because some guy from the ISOC or some guy in the local masjid says to you that, this dalil is wrong, that dalil is wrong. Look, sit down, get your imam involved, right? We're not saying your dalil is wrong. Like I just explained earlier on. If in Salah you think that Surah Fatiha should be read, I'm going to say to you, you're right. And if in Salah you say Surah Fatiha doesn't have to be read behind the Imam, then I'm going to say to you, you're right. Each person has his dalil. We should, at the end of the day, respect one another for the dalils that we have. So who are we? Who are we at the end of the day? We are part of a heritage. We should be part of many scholars that are of a certain background. Now, whenever you get that, there's respect in the community. Like, look, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm an imam in North London. We have a Turkish community here. I respect them. I have my sitting with them. We have a Bengali community here with the Hanafi, Pakistani and Indian community with the Hanafi predominant, background. We have the Somalians here in North London who have, maybe a Shafi background, more of, that kind of background, or, they have their own sort of, take. We have certain people who have got a Hanbali background, Maliki background. We've got people with Salafi background. I get on with all of them. Why? Because you have to be strong, like I said earlier, in your principles, in your understanding of the infrastructure behind the Quran and Sunnah lens that you look through. Okay? Because Quran and Sunnah is one, but everyone looks through different lenses at that Quran and Sunnah. That's what you've got to understand. So now, as the brother said, what advice should we give? The advice is, guys, look, your parents who are Hanafis, your parents who are Shafis, your parents that are Salafis, your parents that follow a particular background, they all have a certain background. Stick to that, fine. But at the same time, don't create fitna in the community with trying to put this dalil over that person and you're wrong and this wrong. Because look, end of the day, we've all got hadith. We've all got understanding. But I'll give you one example. In India, Shah Ismail Shahid, okay? He's related to Shah Waliullah Dahlavi, right? Okay, famous scholar of hadith. Shah Ismail Shahid, in India, he came to his masjid and he made everybody do roughly their He made everybody lift their hands up, right? His uncle Shah Ishaq said to him, okay, his uncle, who's also a great muhaddith, a great person of hadith, a great scholar, he said to him, my nephew, what are you doing? Why have you suddenly, this masjid, nobody was doing roughly their nobody was lifting their hands several times in salah. Why have you come and made everybody, all the uncles, everybody lift their hands up? He said, because, Shah Ismail Shahid said, because I'm establishing the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Shah Ishaq, rahimullah, he said to him a famous statement, right? It was either Shah Ishaq or one of the other brothers that we had. He said a famous statement. He said, my nephew, he said, you don't establish a sunnah by abolishing another sunnah. You establish a sunnah by abolishing a bid'ah. Okay? So what he said is this. He said, people before, when they raised their hand once in salah, and that's it, they were following a sunnah. And for you to raise the hands every time, that's also a sunnah. You should never come to a community and make people get rid of one sunnah and establish another sunnah. That's not what establishing sunnah is. That's basically causing confusion and fitna and tribulation. If people were doing a bid'ah, and then you come in and removing that bid'ah and establishing the sunnah, that's where you're establishing the sunnah. So, first is, look, guys, you have your dalil, please stick with dalil. We're going to have always people here in these communities, some saying Ameen loudly, some Ameen quietly, some raising their hands, some not raising their hands, some saying Fatiha behind the Imam, some not saying Fatiha behind the Imam. All of you are correct. All of you have got your own dalil and your own understanding. Now, I'm going to ask you by the least, youngsters should not go home and cause fitna with their parents and say, Dad, you've been praying wrong all the while. Dad, your salah is not accepted. Mom, your salah for all your years, for 40 years, for 50 years is not accepted. Let me give you an example of this. This is what happened to me in real life. I came from madrasa and I led the Eid Salah in a place in North London where I was still studying in my madrasa. Okay? So you know how the Hanafis, when they lead their Salatul Eid, they have 6 extra takbirs. 6 extra takbirs, okay? The Shafi madhab and other ahadith say that you're supposed to say takbir 12 times in Eid Salah. So some of you from Arab countries, you're used to 12 takbirs in Eid Salah, and I've been always used to with my dalil of 6 takbirs in Eid Salah. Now what happened is when I raised my hands 3 times in the first rak'ah, and some Arab brother from behind said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And I was thinking, what happened? Did I miss the prayer? I carried on the salah. In the second rakah, he said again, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, like that. I thought, what's going on? So after the salah, the brother came up to me. And he said to me, he said, are you Hanafi? And I said, yes, I'm Hanafi. He said to me, your salah is not done. Right? He read salah, behind and said, your salah is not done. Then after saying salam to everybody left, me and him were talking. So as I was speaking to him, he said to me, your salah is not done. I said, look, how is it my salah is not done? He said, you're supposed to do 12 takbirs. I said, look, brother, there's another hadith that says 6 takbirs. So anyway, we spoke. He said to me, none of the salah is done. So I said, brother, okay, how old are you, brother? He said, I'm 38 years old. I said, okay, have you been like this all your life? He said, no. I said, when did you become like this? He said, 4 years ago. He said, what happened? He said, he met somebody who told him that this is the way to do their salah. I said, fine, brother. I said, for 34 years, what did you follow? He said, I followed what my father taught me, which is not, which is basically the Hanafi mother. So I said, okay, so for 34 years, you followed the Hanafi mother. For 4 years, you followed this different way. He said, yes. I said, okay, brother, now tell me, have you repeated your salah for 34 years that you did according to the Hanafi mother? He said, no. I said, well, you need to repeat your prayers. He said, why? I said, because you're telling me today, I need to repeat all my prayers. None of my prayers are being done. Right? So if your logic is correct, then if I have to repeat my prayers, you have to do the same thing. And if you don't need to repeat your prayers, then leave me alone. My salah is being done today. So you guys got the gist of that, right? So the thing is, look, you're not going to solve these things. Everyone got their own dalail. Stick to what the rules are. But please don't come to I know certain houses, youngsters come to the houses and they cause fitna with their own parents. They tell their parents they've been doing something wrong for their entire life. Guys, you realize the parents have been following scholars who followed scholars for centuries. Okay, now, sometimes parents do, they've been doing a bid'ah. I understand that, okay? If you want to understand the whole definition of bid'ah, go to YouTube, there's a lecture of mine, Salafi versus Sufi and bid'ah. Please listen to that. It's a 3.5-hour lecture. I can't explain all of it right now. So listen to that and then work. I'll give you all the ways, all the tools of working out what is a bid'ah, what is not a bid'ah. So please look at that first and then decide. Sometimes our parents are doing certain bid'ah, I know. How do you understand that? Well, you tell your parents to give the dalil, or you tell your parents imams to present the dalil. You have got no idea of knowing how that is. So you get other imams and then to look at those dalail, look at those evidences. Then let those imams tell you what is bid'ah, what is not bid'ah. Or from the tools I give you from there, again you have to check it up with the imam. If you see that there's no dalil whatsoever, there's no evidence of what your parents have been following, then look, maybe they've done something that they shouldn't be doing. But you know what? The next thing is this. Have you missed out on the ayah in the Quran that says if your parents are mushrik and they're basically been committing shirk all their lives? This is in Surah number 31, I think it's ayah number 14. Allah says, if your parents are committing shirk, they are mushriks, they are worshipping other gods other than me. Allah says, فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا, don't follow them in shirk. But then straight away Allah said, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Remain with your parents with the best manners you can. Remain with them with the best manners, with the best characteristics, with the best way of showing them kindness and mercy, and showing them gentleness, and remaining with them in a way that is acceptable for a person to show utmost respect to their parents. Now look, your parents, if they were Muslim, they're worshipping other gods, Allah said, don't follow them in shirk, but be kind to them, and remain with them in a good manner. If that is the case, imagine you find out that your parents are doing bid'ah. Should you be now having arguments with your parents every single day? No. Even though they might be doing bid'ah, doing something wrong, remain with them in a good manner, but don't follow the bid'ah that they're doing. Okay? Was that something that addressed the question?
Yeah, I think everybody had an extra hour of sleep yesterday, so they can go on to a little bit.
Yeah, but also people's fuel's gonna run out after a while. Can I ask, is there anybody else from the brother side here who's got a question that's related to the topic that we're discussing right now? Is there anybody else I see over here? There's most of this question, the women's questions, I'm going to take them with me. and some of the questions that are really good, as in we haven't got time to, they're not related to the topic, and they're also very good questions. I'm going to try and address them one by one in my social media time when I get the chance. Yeah? So I'll do that. And some of these questions that we've got, guys, if you've got another topic for the next time I come, or the next time we have another speaker come, please put these suggestions to the committee members, put them to Brother Mujeeb, and put them to the imams, and let them all consult and then get the next topic ready, because then it'll be relevant to what you actually want to hear. So I don't think there's any more questions about yes, yes.
It's about Astaghfar, I do Astaghfar, but I'm thinking Astaghfar, when you pray Salah, Fatiha, you read Allah is in front of you, and you're basically concentrating about Allah. But I start listening to your videos about Astaghfar, and you said, I'm doing Astaghfar from the head, from the head or from the mind. And when I'm doing Allah, and I'm saying Astaghfar, and you said, and I said, let me meet Sheikh Hasan Ali live, so you can explain it to me. So alhamdulillah, today you're here. About Astaghfar.
We'll explain off the country, we'll explain a lot, but inshallah, I'll teach you but something that's related to the, I'll teach you about this, I'll just separately. But if you've got anything that's related to any other questions, then we'll take that. If not, then I'm going to wrap this up. I think from the sister side, I've looked at a lot of the questions. A lot of them are not to do with the actual topic. And each one you're asking actually requires a 10-minute answer, requires some of them 15 minutes answer. And we really, Jazakallah for coming out today. We've got children who still have to go to school tomorrow, people have to go to sleep early. Although the hour has changed, people still have to get adjusted to the new sleeping time, right? That's another thing, because normally on a Monday morning after the clock goes back and forward, they have problems getting kids on time. So I think we've covered the topic. All I'm going to say to you brothers is, again, the major point is, please remember that this social media that is there and all the devices that we've got, it's a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. We're using these devices for greater good. If that greater good you're getting through the social media, then alhamdulillah. If the greater good you're not getting, you're either losing your time, you're losing yourself, you're losing your identity, you're making mistakes in life, you're going in debt, you're leading a fake life, you're now engaging in things that you don't need. It's making you compromising your akhirah, you're losing your Quran time, you're losing your dhikr time, you're not preparing for the akhirah. If that's the case, then please minimize your time on these devices or switch it off for a bit. I actually gave this challenge once, right? If you want to know whether you're addicted or not, this is a challenge. With this we're going to end, okay? If you want to know whether you're addicted or not, can you switch off your device for an entire 24 hours? With just necessary emails for work, okay? Necessary emails for work. Apart from that, apart from something that is deemed necessary, you switch it off for 24 hours. Can you do that? Then can you do the same thing for 3 days in a row, 72 hours? Can you actually do that? I gave this video once and it went viral on WhatsApp, and it ended up in Turkey, right? And I was in Turkey at the time for some printing, and a lot of the Turkish people, they recognized me through that video, and they actually said they did a 3-day fast on WhatsApp, right? 3-day fast on social media and WhatsApp. This was back in 2013, so some of the social media we've got today wasn't available at the time. But they actually said they did a detox of 3 days. The challenge to you then is, can you do a 7 days or a 10 days? I normally try and do one every year with i'tikaf. When i'tikaf comes, it's a really good time, like 10 days switch off, don't engage in anything. And you know what? For 10 days putting yourself in the masjid, switching yourself completely off, and you come out to the world, it seems like a different world. I normally get to do this as well when I'm in Bangladesh, at my sheikh's place, where there's no internet in his village. You know what happens is I don't get to even get my phone on. And you know what? That time you kind of detox. And all of us, now and again, we need this detox. But if you think you're not addicted, then please give yourself this challenge and see what happens to you. If you feel like, you know what, I want to go check that. I've got to go back on my Twitter. I've got to go back on my this. I've got to go back on my Instagram. I've got to go back on... If you keep on feeling that, then you know what, you are addicted. That's the thing of being addicted. If you feel deprived, if you feel low, if you feel like, oh my God, I'm really like breaking up inside because I can't go on this thing, I'm feeling so bored, I'm feeling that I'm zoned out. If you feel that's the case, then you're addicted. You're addicted. So the way to do it is take gaps of hours, then days, and see if you can detox yourself from this stuff. And then finally when you get back on, have your number of hours, fixed time, fixed places you're going to go, fixed things you're going to watch, and try and stay away from anything that you don't actually need. Jazakumullah khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. Oh Allah, we ask you to give us the good of all these devices, and we ask you to save us from the evil of all these devices. We ask you to make us navigate in this world as according to your own rida and your pleasure, and according to the rida and pleasure of Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we ask you to make us be prepared for the akhirah, and for our next world, for us to be in a way that we have no regrets when we get to the akhirah. Oh Allah, please make that true for all of us. Let us find our religion and learn our religion as it's supposed to be, from the people whom you love, from the people who've learned your religion properly. And for us to take that and carry that and implement that in our lives for the betterment of this world and our akhirah. Oh Allah, Allahumma inna nas'aluka min al-khayri kulli. Oh Allah, we ask you for every single good that is there, whether it's near to us, far from us, ajilihi wa ajili, ma alimna minhu wa ma lam na'lam, whether we know of it, we don't know of it, and save us from every evil, whether it's close to us, whether it's far away from us, whether we know of it, whether we don't know of it. Oh Allah, make that true for us. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.